Welcome to the Harnessing Happiness podcast. Upbeat vibes generated and transferred to you. Now here's your host, Sarah J Naylor.
Hello and welcome to Harnessing Happiness with myself, Sarah J Naylor. Thank you so much for dropping by and taking time to listen. And today I have got the fabulous Adam Harris with me. Adam and I have known each other a while now, but he's left the country, and I'm assured it wasn't because of me. Anyway, I'm going to hand over to Adam. I haven't been known for stalking, it's fine. Yes, I'm going to hand over to Adam to introduce himself, and we can get on with the show. Over to you, Adam.
It's a pleasure to be here. I am Adam Harris. I'm founder of Frank and Fearless, How to Have Focus, Flow and Fun. Predominantly work with chief execs, boards of directors, helping them have the difficult conversations, firstly with themselves, and second of all with their teams, to ensure that they are getting high performance, doing the things that they love, and most importantly, Sarah, being happy.
Yes! It's so important though, Adam, isn't it? It really is. And I think so many businesses do actually miss that point, because there's all this sort of focus on performance, etc. and so on and so forth. And it came to mind when I was listening to some reports yesterday. I don't know which football club it was that had got through so many managers since 2012. But people are people. We're human, aren't we? We're not production. We're not elements. We've got personalities, and we need to be sort of taken care of, really.
My observation would be is that the role of the leader has changed, and actually it's their responsibility to create the space and the environment that allows employees or peers or colleagues to put their hand up and say, hey, do you know what? I'm not quite digging this. I'm not quite happy. Let's have a conversation, a dialogue, an exchange. So I remember a phrase somebody said to me many years ago, it sticks with me. I can't remember who said it, but in order for a deal to succeed, both parties have got to win. So if somebody isn't happy, first and foremost, I believe the leader should have some level of empathy and awareness about what's going on and be asking the right questions, but that's a separate thing. But it's also the responsibility of the individual to kind of go, hey, I'm just not quite working for me. Cool, let's have a conversation. And if it's not the right environment or it's not the right role, then actually, and you know more than most because of your recruitment business, is that you're actually stopping somebody from living their true value and finding their own purpose.
Absolutely. And it's really about empowering people. And unfortunately, I mean, you obviously picked up on something there. It does need to be win-win both sides. But there are, and you will know this, people that are in employment that don't have that confidence to speak up. So therefore the situation exacerbates. They don't speak up. The sort of the management don't pick up on the fact that they're not speaking up. And there's this lack of engagement. And that's when you then start to get this turnover of staff, because they're not being listened to, but then they're not being given that opportunity, I guess, to actually have a voice. And that is for the leaders and the managers to create that sort of, I guess, safe environment, or that ability for people to speak out, because I think maybe too many people don't want to be questioned. They just want to lead. They want to tell. And as a good coach, it's all about ask, not tell. It's about enabling and creating an environment for people to be that best person they can be. And it might be you've got a great employee in your business, but in the wrong role. And if you identify what really does fire them up, with that knowledge of the business they've already got, you could do a few sort of cog changes, if you like. I just get this vision of a wheel sort of moving around and different cogs in there. And if somebody goes into a different position, everything's going to fit into place far better.
I completely agree. I talk often about creating the conditions for success. Anybody that leaves or wants to leave your organisation should never come as a shock. Because if you're having the right conversations, you're having the right dialogue, and you're sitting down and go, look, this is the expectations. If you can't or don't want to meet them, that's fine. Then, we can have an adult conversation and we can go from there. I often say it's like a moving jigsaw, and you spoke about kind of this aspect of cogs. What I found working with clients over the last kind of 2 years is that the aspect of kind of working from home, Interestingly, here in New Zealand at the moment, there's aspects of mandating vaccine passports, which means that some businesses will allow and won't allow certain individuals kind of into the organisation. So it's very easy to kind of go, oh, well, we can't do this. It's like, well, actually, where's the opportunity here? You know, what in theory, we're kind of ripping up the playbook. And one business that I'm working with here locally has been really great, because actually what we've done is we've identified that there's somebody that actually can fulfill a role working from home that's going to add significant value to the business. And it was something that only really came out but just by having exploratory conversations and kind of go, so what is it that you know, I speak about something called the A game. Quadrant box, top 2, what do you love doing, what are you great at? Bottom 2, what do you hate doing, what are you not very good at? And when individuals can spend some time looking at the functionality of the roles that they do, if we're spending, and I include myself in this, if we're spending the majority of the time doing the things that we love and the things that we're good at, and we found a way to delegate or elevate the things that we don't like doing and we're not very good at, actually we create the conditions for success.
Yeah.
And the fluidity, I believe that leaders and organisations need to have moving forward. Actually, what's happened is that over the last 2 years, COVID has kind of accelerated a lot of institutionalised bureaucracy. They just needed to change, because actually, if they didn't change, employees were going to go elsewhere. Because the new generation, people know what they want, but more importantly, they know what they don't want. I'm sure on previous podcasts you spoke a lot about culture, etc. We as leaders have got to find ways of making sure that we are able to change and adapt and listen, observe, and be having the right conversations with the right people consistently.
No, absolutely. And listening is so important, and I think so many people don't do that, and they don't realise the power of actually tuning in and listening and being aware and observing. You can get so caught up in sort of that what they want to do. They don't really, and I think it's possibly true. A lot of people get promoted into the management role or want to go at the management role because of the salary increases and increased responsibilities, but perhaps don't actually enjoy the management of people. Full stop. Because it's a skill, it's an art form to actually be able to sort of manage large groups of people and understand them and be able to tune into them and sort of do all the things that a good manager should do. But that's again about being in flow with your career, even at that level, isn't it? It's about, doing something that fires you up, that you enjoy doing. And if you enjoy managing, you're going to naturally, one would assume, want what's best for your team and bringing them along. And what I really liked with what you were just saying is about the opportunities that present themselves when something major like COVID comes. You and I both know, you suddenly had to stop, you had to pivot, we had to do things differently, we had to think. I mean, obviously at the time you'd just moved out to New Zealand with your family. I mean, it really wasn't the best time for COVID to stop, and you had to do that in bucket loads because you'd already got to adapt to a new culture. I don't say culture, but it is, isn't it? I mean, it's the other side of the globe, different way of doing things, new friends, make new connections and get the children into school and what have you. But you've got to think and be curious and look at other options, and there's always different ways of looking at things and making things work and adapting and coming out of something with a better way of working. Like you're saying, we're moving paradigms and we're shifting out of that old way of working. We've got to move forward. We've got to adapt. We've got to understand. And the more people are in flow, the happier they'll be. As you are stuck and your energy gets stuck because you're doing a job you don't like and you're working for somebody that doesn't respect you and you don't respect. There's a complexity. I mean, it's such a massive subject, but you get ailments that manifest as a result if you're not in the right job, you're not in the right place, you're not in the right environment. And if the companies aren't making that environment right in the first instance, that's a big issue. And as you said, that's when the staff start to leave.
A couple of things I just want to pick up on there. One of the things that we've created within Frank and Fearless over the last couple of years is a number of different diagnostics, and a lot of the times it's just questions. But actually, it's about asking individuals within the organisation, what your needs, what your wants, what your hopes, what your desires, what's your vision, what is it that you're fearful of, And actually, they need to understand that for themselves. We've also got a couple of programs which we created, and this was based on taking, and we touched on it, both of us have touched on this aspect of going from being a manager to being a leader. And first, actually, what we've got to do is we've got to qualify that the individual or the individuals actually have the want, the need, and the desire to do it. And actually, are they? Does that match the expectation of what the organisation wants? Once you've then got that, it's then kind of a case of like literally kind of working through and kind of going, what's the program? What's the mindset shift? What's the expectations on self and of others? What's the behaviour? All of this kind of stuff just has to be worked through. I think, and I've seen it definitely more in UK businesses than definitely North America, is there's almost a kind of a case of, oh, well, you've been doing a good job, so we'll make you a manager.
Yeah.
How many times do we know from, if you're listening to this, you'll know people that have been the top performer in whatever they are. They then go into the management role, inverted commas, and they don't succeed. And actually, I think the majority of the reason why they don't succeed is because the organisation hasn't given them the chance to succeed. They've just made an assumption.
Yes.
And they've not supported them. And we then end up going into a bit of a vicious circle because the individual then becomes unhappy because their self-actualisation isn't being met. They then leave the organisation. In a very short period of time, you've just lost not only your manager, but potentially one of your high-performing members of the team.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that there's a difference, isn't there, between a manager and a leader as well?
Massive. I don't think we've got time to go into that.
Well, I mean, I have to say, with what you've just said, I sort of reflect back on my career. I always, before I sort of qualified and changed career being a coach, and because I'd been in a long-term relationship and I was very much supporting my ex-husband in his business and doing a lot of other things outside of work aside of, and I just really enjoyed the role of a recruitment consultant and never really wanted to go into the management because I knew I'd lose that element of the job.
For me, the observation would be is that the tide has changed in the fact that it used to be the case that the perception was you needed to grow throughout the organisation and success was determined by job title and kind of salary and hierarchy. Yes, yeah. I've definitely seen a shift over the last 5 to 10 years where people are like, hey, look, and culturally here in New Zealand, it's very, very different. The aspect here is it's, we work to live. So, people here, they want to finish at 4 o'clock because they want to be off deck going for a surf.
They want that sounds perfect.
Yeah, I've not quite got to that stage yet.
Yeah. Have you got the shorts though, Adam?
I'm wearing shorts.
You got the board shorts.
I've got the board shorts. I've not quite got to the surf lessons yet. I think that might towards next summer. I think I'm gonna do it. But I think what is definitely happening is the tide has changed, and people are kind of really a lot more focused and a lot more aware of what it is that they want and what they don't want. So, I'm quite, people are quite happy going, I just want to be an employee. I don't want the stress. I don't want the challenges of, management or leadership. I just want to do my job so that I can live my life. And I definitely know my parents' generation, that's not what they were taught. They were taught you've got to work hard. You've got to do the hours. You've got to do what's expected of you.
Yeah, well, I was going to say there's been a massive shift, like you've said, and I think it is about understanding who you are, and that's what I love doing. In all that I do is encouraging people to follow their flow and do what's right for them. And I think certainly in the UK, I don't know what it's like over in New Zealand right now, but there's been a massive shift into sort of entrepreneurialism and a real gold rush of people entering that marketplace because. They've certainly with COVID and with lockdown and lots of other things, and that level of awareness of just wanting to do things for themselves rather than being sort of, dictated to by the constraints of a business. I know I've been self-employed now since 2009, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I've got lots of different things that I do at any given time. This week alone, I've had 12 new jobs come in, and we're only on, and that we've only just stopped. Well, we're in the UK as I'm recording this, and we're on Wednesday morning, and but then I'm dovetailing in sort of recording podcasts and writing blogs and getting books done and coaching, and it's great because you create this portfolio career for yourself, and I've got a member of staff. I think she manages me actually.
That's all good stuff. Manage, when we employ somebody, that age-old thing, surround yourself with people that are better than you.
Do you aware of Roger Hamilton? Have you done any of his profiling?
I'm aware of him. I've not done his specific profiling, but I'm a big profiling fan.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I did his profile a few years ago, and I'm a star, Blaze Dynamo Energy, and I'm a star supporter. So I love supporting people to be the best person that they're going to be, and I've had to use that on myself, being self-employed. But in terms of steel energy, which is like the detail, big fat zero. And Lou, who works for me when we did her profiling, and she's completely the opposite. And she's like, all this steel energy. That's why it works, because and that's what you need to look for in stuff. It's not about finding a replica of yourself. It's about all those different cogs that all work together to create the whole. And that's the beauty of people, isn't it? We're all individual, we're all unique. And it's understanding that, like you going back to what you were saying to start with, and what it is that what fires them up, what makes them happy, what they're enjoying doing. Because there's no point saying, if you put me into a room with no daylight, no contact with anybody, I'd wither away, and it. What use am I? I can't serve that way, can I?
Thank you for that image, Sarah.
A withered Sarah is not a pretty image. Moving away from that, though, obviously you've moved. We have alluded to it already. You've moved out your whole family. It's 2.5 years ago now, isn't it, to New Zealand? And what prompted you to do that? And I'm kind of keen to sort of ask you a bit more about the education, because I remember you writing a blog about that as well. And I think the listeners are going to be really interested in what motivates you and what makes you happy, and how you've used that sort of positive mindset to overcome challenges in your life, which I know obviously there will have been in moving over to New Zealand as COVID hit.
So I think the thing for me, Sarah, is that we were living in Nottingham, where I was born and bred. I'm a big Nottingham Forest fan. That's definitely something that makes me happy, and I'm very happy. Even waking up at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning to watch the Forest matches live.
Oh my God!
My wife keeps saying to me, "Why don't you watch a recording?" It's like, it's not the same. That's one thing I'm missing. I'm missing the atmosphere of going down to the city ground.
You see, now that's funny. Because obviously we met at the Notts County ground when, and I would have thought.
We did. Thanks for, you've just outed me now as a football fan. Let me just say, though, that we were at Notts County to watch Nottingham rugby.
That's very true. That is very true, because they were using the ground at the time. Anyway, I digress, but that surprised me. Sorry. I'm zipping it.
I think we just got to the stage as a family where we just felt as if we needed a change. I've got 2 daughters who were just coming up to 11 and 7 at the time, and we just felt as if we were going to move, we needed to move before our eldest kind of got into secondary school, to kind of establish and get grounding and build friendships and relationships, etc. We were actually looking at the south of England, so both myself and my wife are qualified teachers and lecturers in universities, and we'd come across the Steiner School of Methodology and the Montessori. So it's just a slightly different education base. We were looking at kind of the south of England. And then we kind of went to, and it's just funny how fortuitous how these things happen. I saw some flights for New Zealand. I've got family over here. It was flying. It was ridiculous. It was flying on Christmas Day. Coming back kind of almost 3 weeks later, so the kids were hardly going to miss any school. So I just booked the flights on a whim, came out, and actually we'd looked at moving to New Zealand probably 7 years prior. But then my wife Naomi got cancer, so everything kind of changed and pivoted, and so, and I think at that point we were probably about a 7 out of 10. We'd pretty much made the decision that we were going to move. We came over. We reminded ourselves why we potentially loved New Zealand so much. So we booked another trip for Naomi and my eldest to come out, which would have been June 19.
Yeah.
In between then, we found out about a new school that was being built here in New Zealand in a place where I'm living now called New Plymouth, called the Green School. the first one was based out of Bali. The aspect was around conceptual learning, outdoor learning by doing, sustainability, and it was just like, if I was going to go to school, that's exactly the sort of place I was going to say.
It just sounds amazing, and having read a blog that you wrote about it, just sounds incredible.
We just kind of like, do you know what? Right, that's where we're going. So I changed and moved my coaching, consulting, advisory board, all of the different interventions that I do, and just turned around to all my clients and said, right, this is what I'm doing. I'm moving online. This is pre-COVID, remember?
Yes.
72% of my clients were like, okay, cool, we'll just move with you. The others were like, oh, this online stuff, it's never going to work. You can't have the same. How can you have a coaching session online? It's like, well, you people who have been doing telecoaching or telephone coaching for years. Anyway, it was interesting having a few conversations with them over the last 2 years. So we just kind of did it, and it's definitely been the hardest thing we've ever done, but so much reward at the same time. I think one of your questions, what makes me a happy person? I'm incredibly inquisitive. I've got very high intuition, and I'm just a constant learner. So people go, oh, I'm sorry to trouble you, but can you come on my podcast? It's like, yeah, because I'm learning about myself. Even just talking now, I'm just remembering what I've gone through. I'm reflecting, but I'm just kind of, I wouldn't say I'm an information junkie. I just for me, I love learning through people, whether that be one-on-one, whether that be me going to kind of not so much conferences, but more kind of masterminding. So the aspect of bringing people together to kind of work through real life situations, issues, problems, opportunities, and kind of go, right, okay, the collective mindset, the challenge in the question. I get so much energy from working with other people. It's not, I don't, people say, oh, do you mind staying up till, what's it now? It's 10:30 at night. It's like, don't get me wrong, I'm going to be tired when I go to bed, but I love doing what I do. Yeah. So it gives me a huge amount of energy.
And that's true, isn't it, though? And that's what we were talking about before. When you're doing something that you love doing, you want to do it. You're excited about it, and you do want to stay up at 10:30 at night. And for me, I do have to rein myself in because I love doing so many things.
The likes of you and I suffer from golden penny syndrome, where we see something shiny over there and go, oh, that's new and shiny. Oh, I've got to have a bit of a play with that. And then within a very short period of time, oh, I'm bored now. I'll move on to, oh, that's nice and shiny. So I have definitely had to hone my criteria for kind of getting involved in things. It's not because I don't want to. It's just that actually, and I've had to learn this over the years, is that I need to protect my time and my energy.
Exactly. Exactly. You have to put boundaries in place for yourself, don't you?
Yeah. My hair's getting grey.
Doesn't look very grey from here.
Thank you.
It is about recognising that, and I think, as you said, about learning about yourself through doing, talking and the masterminding. And I mirror exactly what and reflect exactly and echo, I should say, exactly what you've just said, because I get that energy from working with people. I love talking to people. I love having, and I love doing these podcasts because you have such amazing conversations that are in depth, and I feel very honoured and very lucky to, actually have this time with you, to be able to spend that time discussing these things with you that I know that then will be sort of spread globally, that other people can then listen into, because there's that wisdom that comes out. And I had a message this morning from somebody that had been listening to a podcast, in support and saying, oh, it's just great. And it's just like, it's just wonderful. And you get that energy, don't you? I mean, it's just brilliant.
This is my opinion, but I think this is what distinguishes somebody that is a good coach and a great coach, is the fact that we don't underestimate the impact and the value that we can be having with people. Not necessarily the ones that we're engaged with, because there's in theory there's a contract and there's an exchange of services. But I think when you have levels of knowledge or wisdom, and you are sharing, we should never underestimate at any one moment in time that somebody's listening to this podcast and actually, either one of us say something that just hits. They've heard the same thing 1,000 times before, but just because of where they are with what's going on in their life, is that they just hear a voice that they can agree with, that they can empathize with, and it almost sounds as if we're speaking exactly to them. And I mean, you know, I've got my own podcast as well, which you were a guest on. The
Yes, thank you very much. And I did talk too much, I know.
You always talk too much.
Well,
Stop apologising. We actually don't know who our listeners are. You know, we get the stats of where people are listening from, but we don't know where. And I've kind of had that with with kind of being a speaker over the years, is that you just bump into somebody years later and it's like, hey, I'll never forget that session that you did, and you're like, what session was that? And that gives me I feel very humbled when those things and those situations happen. I don't think it's actually just being a coach. I think it's actually in all walks of life. You know, we're walking down the street, and you know, if you smile at somebody, just the impact that smile can have on somebody.
Absolutely. And it is the small things, Adam, that make the massive difference. And it's so true. I mean, you sort of what you've just alluded to, and people and the nod and what people pick up on. I mean, I remember contacting somebody just recently, because obviously I've still got my recruitment business, and it was really interesting. And he recorded a conversation he'd had with me years ago that had really resonated with him and his career. And it's like, oh gosh, I mean, I have so excited. Even though I'm a recruiter, I've never really been a sort of, I used to be introduced as, Sarah's not your typical recruiter, because I've never worked as a bums on seat sort of kind of recruiter. And I've always been really mindful of as you were saying, as again, alluding to that, observing and recognising that part you play in somebody's life. And I've always been aware of that, you know, my involvement, even in that recruitment process, is part of that person's journey through life. And it's to be mindful, it's to be careful, it's to be respectful of that part that you play in their life, you know. And I will always, like, you know, do my best to sort of pass on some, you know, notes of wisdom, even if it's just recruitment wise. Not that it always is taken on board, because, you know, people have to be receptive and want to hear, you know, even if it's just somebody saying to them, well, you need to change the setting on your job board profile, because you're going to get the wrong calls and people just aren't interested. People have to be, and as the listeners will be, you know, if they're tuned in, and as you've just said, it could be something they've heard 100 times before, then suddenly it's just something went, get it now. Yeah. Aha. Yeah. It's important to be aware of that. It's exciting though, isn't it? Life. I wanted to. Do you know what? I actually want to know a little bit more how the girls are getting on at the school, because it sounds fascinating, and it would be really interesting to know how they're getting on and how they've settled and how happy they are doing. Because I've interviewed quite a few people now in terms of sort of education, and my books that I've the chapters I extracted from Shining a Light on You, How to Manifest Your Dream Job, my first book, are all based at sort of the education sector from 11 to 16, 16 to 18, and 18 to 21. And then we've taken a book away from that to actually address to the parents, carers and educators that we were in the process of. I say we, this is my editor, because we're sort of working together on it. I kind of challenge the traditional education, because I don't think it works, and I think things need to change dramatically.
Okay. So you're going to potentially get me on my soapbox here, and I could.
That's fine.
Could be talking about
Adam,
this subject
soapbox away, because if you listen to the podcast I've done with Hayley Forbes, she talks about radical unschooling, and she's got 2 children with autism, and it's just amazing what she's done and what the turnaround through changing how she educates children, because actually we're still working on a system that was set up in the Victorian era, aren't we? So
one of my favourite TED Talks of all time is Sir Ken Robinson.
Oh yes.
And look, for me, having been a student within the education system, that I wouldn't say it failed me. I went to a decent school in Woolerton in Nottingham, Fernwood. It was a pretty good school. It's just it didn't work for me, and I didn't necessarily get bad grades. I did okay. It's just I wanted more. I was asking a lot of questions. I was always very inquisitive, and I kind of had to dumb myself down for a period of time, because I had to fit in, because if I didn't fit in, then I was going to get into lots of trouble. I subsequently, then qualified as a teacher, and initially the reason why I did that is when I finished my undergrad degree, the UK government were paying people to train to be teachers, and I just thought, wow, I've got nothing else to do. I don't know what to do. Transferable skills, moving forward. And I absolutely fell in love with teaching. In theory, being a coach is just a form of teaching, in my opinion. The light bulb moment. Fortunately, I get paid a little bit more than teachers. Once I qualified, what I found in my kind of NQT year, which is kind of your first year after qualifying, was the bureaucracy and the paperwork. For me, in theory, I suppose, as an entrepreneurial teacher, I'm a qualified business studies teacher. And I was like, right, okay, I want to take the kids to the local manufacturing company because I want them to see the widgets being built, and then we want to go into the sales department and speak to the guys in the sales team, and then speak to marketing and speak to people in the finance place. And it's like, oh, you can't do that. What do you mean I can't do that? We want kids to learn, but they're learning from an outdated system. I want to give them real life. So to be honest, I got to the stage where I just knocked it on the head. But it's always stayed with everything that I've done. My teaching has always been the core foundation about, giving people the right amount of space, allowing them to kind of learn, but just, almost kind of hold their hand. And I often say to a lot of my clients, I'm a little bit like Nanny McPhee in the fact that when you don't want me, I'm there, and I'm can be a bit of a pain in the bum. But when I've done the work and you want me to stay, it's like, look, I'm done. You're able to now kind of do this for yourself. And I think there's a level of responsibility that comes with that, in the fact that we can't just be there for kind of for everybody. Going back to where we are now, what's been interesting is that coming to in theory, it was almost the perfect storm. So you've kind of got a brand new school methodology. You've then got a brand new building, which if anybody wants to go in, if you just type in Green School New Zealand, you'll see the way that the campus has been built. It's very, very different. Lots of green open space.
Wow.
The buildings are kind of, it's not the typical classrooms. So you've then got brand new teachers that are coming into a new methodology, a new way of learning. So they're having to unlearn and the kids are having to unschool what they've done. So you've then got all new students. You've then got new parents. All of that kind of coming into the mix. So there was probably 70 students that started off, and then 4 weeks into after launch, you then go into COVID. So,
oh gosh,
and in theory, since that moment, our borders have predominantly pretty much been shut. So we the kids go back to school in a couple of weeks, going into the third year. There's probably about 200 students, international students that want to come. They can't get in.
Yeah. Oh crikey,
They can't get in. There's been a trickle come through because of some Kiwis that have come back from abroad that have managed to kind of, come back. But there's still a lot of people that want to be here that can't be here. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed with my daughters is, and even at the age of 9, my eldest.
She's super bright, isn't she?
She's super. I mean, I don't know if you remember. She actually came to a couple of PSA meetings.
Oh yes, she did a talk, didn't she?
Yeah,
she took centre stage. She's amazing. She's really bright.
She's bright. She's inquisitive, and give her the conditions for success. Create the environment. She's decided that she's bright, but not academically. She's not afraid to have conversations with adults.
But that's the emotional intelligence, isn't it, Adam? And I think sometimes this sort of we measure brightness by qualifications, and I think that sometimes is, well, and in a lot of cases I think that's absolutely wrong. I mean, I've never done a degree. I left school with my O levels. Started A-levels, dropped out of them. I subsequently decided I was going to become a coach, enrolled for a qualification, and discovered after I'd completed it was a level 5 qualification, equivalent to 2 years of degree. But look at you now. But it's the emotional intelligence, and that's what your daughter's got. And I don't think necessarily being forced to get a qualification that reflects that is necessarily the answer, is it? And
we can't go through the aspect of and look. I feel fortunate that we and look, did we make the decision to move here because of the kids? Partly, but look, I'm going to hold my hands up. A large part of it was because of us, because we wanted to unlearn, we wanted to grow, we wanted to do new things, we wanted the challenges, because that's where actually the growth comes from. If you stay within your comfort zone.
Yes.
I just did a Wim Hof workshop at the weekend.
Oh wow! How exciting!
Yeah.
Do explain to the listener who Wim Hof is, because you and I know who Wim Hof is, and it sounds very chilly to me. But
oh, Sarah with the puns. Wim Hof, a guy somewhere, I can't remember where, one of the Nordic countries, created this aspect around breathing. And actually, if you go into a cold bath or a cold shower, cold therapy is that actually you can slow your breathing down. You can actually overcome the fear and the perception of being within the cold and actually kind of breathe through it. And that was great. Did I really want to do it? I felt uncomfortable, but that's where the growth comes from.
Oh, absolutely. I love doing new stuff, but like you're saying, sometimes you have to rein yourself in from trying to do all those shiny new things, Adam. So what prompted you to do that one then?
My word for this year is exploration.
Whoa.
And my feeling word is bravery. People sometimes say to me, "Why did you call your business Frank and Fearless?" I think part of it actually it was about giving me a bit of a driver to want to push myself. And we have definitely done experiences in the last 2 years since being here, which I would probably never have done. I just kind of look at things and go, why not? Let's give it a go. What's the worst that can happen?
Exactly. That's one of my phrases. What's the worst that can happen?
I really do not like heights, and I'm massively uncomfortable. Naim and my wife pretty much loves them. One of the things that we did last year was we climbed the highest waterfall on a guided tour on like carabiners and stuff. Absolutely massively outside of my comfort zone.
Wow.
But what I said to myself was, if my life was in danger, I wouldn't be able to do it. Okay? So this is an organised company. They're running these trips. Is it going to be uncomfortable? Yes. Is my life going to be in danger? No. Right. So I've got to flip my mindset. So even kind of 250 foot up in the air, hanging off a waterfall, I've got my youngest absolutely crying because she doesn't want to be there.
Oh,
and I'm just breathing through it and kind of going, okay, one step at a time. Do not get me wrong. It was hard.
Yeah.
But the satisfaction and the reward knowing that I've done it. To be honest, I think it was down on the South Island. I think we're going to have a wedding at some point later this year or early next year that we're going to be going to on the South Island. I'm pretty sure that we're going to do that again.
Well, I think the thing is, once you've done something, I mean, I was just going to say a couple of things on the back of that. I mean, I feel that every week with my park run. I love my park run. But sometimes when I'm running, I'm going, oh my God, it's hard. Then when it's finished, it's like, yeah, I've clocked up another park run. It's done. But the other thing I was going to say, my friend Fiona, she's walked to the North Pole and South Pole, but she's also climbed El Capitan in the Yosemite and sort of had to camp on the side of on the cliff face to sleep overnight. It's like, holy moly! It's like a sheer cliff face. It's like, I mean, so I take my hat off to you, Adam. Just the very thought of it, because I can't go close to. I mean, it's not that I'm afraid of heights, but it's that edge. I think I was chucked off a cliff in a past life several times.
So for me, it's not the height. I worked out it's the fear of not necessarily even falling. It's the fear of falling and like kind of hitting the ground and the disbursement of bones. And I worked out for me that it was based on when I was younger. I fell off the garage roof and broke my arm. So there's almost an aspect of kind of trauma there. But again, you've kind of got to look at it and kind of go, okay, so what's the fear and what's the perception that sits behind it? Right, okay. And almost kind of ask the 7 whys. So why am I fearful of that? Well, because I hurt myself. Yeah, but why? And if you keep on going through those different permutations is that you actually then kind of really begin to understand. And I think one of the aspects with coaching and with any form of kind of external support is actually exploring the areas of your life that you want to grasp and you want to take on board. But also I think there's an opportunity to lean into and reflect and understand why have you got these perceptions that you've created? Where have they come from?
Yeah, it's that drilling down. It's going back to being curious, isn't it? And sort of exploring it and looking at it and sort of looking at all aspects of it and going, well, where does that come from? How is it? Why am I affected like that? Do I want to be affected like that? And actually, as you dig down into the subconscious and with NLP techniques and other techniques, you can actually change those experiences and experience them in a different way. You know, obviously that happened to you in childhood. It doesn't mean to say it's going to happen to you time and time again, does it? Because I mean, there's so many things that happen that you let go, but obviously it wouldn't have been a very nice experience. But when you're then climbing, it's all supported, isn't it? Because you've got a guided climb and everything is prepared for, so it's not like you're just going to... Anyway, what are you doing on the garage roof, Adam?
Well, I was never very good at football, so I kicked it onto the garage roof, so I had to get it down.
Had to go and fetch it. Gosh.
Yeah, I was never destined to play for Forest.
Oh, blimey. There we go. Just have to be a great supporter instead. So I think that brings us sort of all the way back to where we started almost. But I mean, you shared with us with my listeners fantastically so much wisdom and insight into sort of leadership and management and changing your life around and overcoming challenges and what makes you happy. But are there any sort of final top tips that you have that you... I mean, we've just been talking about that one of exploration of what it is and questioning and going deep, digging down. But any other sort of top tips to finish with? And how do people find you if they want you?
Okay, so a couple of quick things that I think for me are important. The meeting that you don't want to go to is always the meeting that you should go to. Just kind of ponder on that. Clarity creates confidence. Mm-hmm. If you know what you need and what you want, or the expectations of somebody else, that means that you have clarity or they have clarity, which then means that you can go ahead and push forward and do what needs to be done. If you think about the aspects, when you have uncertainty, other emotions then come into play: fear, uncertainty, lack of clarity, all of these things. And actually, when you've got that clarity, it allows you to have the confidence. Mm-hmm. And then I suppose the final thing really is event plus response equals outcome. Okay. Both Nigel Risner and Paul McGee have written stuff on this, so if you want to know more, look at both of them up. And the aspect around this is that, let's take, for example, the event being COVID. It's out of our hands, it's out of our control. Mm-hmm. However, the response to which we give it will then determine the outcome. So if we go, oh my God, COVID is the worst thing that happens, I've now got to be at home, this is just horrible, that's going to influence your outcome.
Absolutely.
If your response is, hey, look, it's happened, what do I need to do? How do I need to work through it? What's my mindset need to be? Is that your response in a positive way is going to then influence the outcome. We kind of need to just take stock, take a step back and kind of go, right, okay, what can I own? What can I be responsible for? And the only thing there is our response.
I agree. Yeah, because I mean, just to sort of kind of finish on that and sort of give a nod to you as well, Adam, in that respect, is that when COVID did hit and I discovered a bottle of wine wasn't the answer and I pivoted madly, I suddenly jumped on and revisited a whole pile of marketing training I'd done I think it was about a year or 18 months previously. And I think you were running, because obviously you jumped on to doing stuff as well, and you ran a live webinar or something like that, and it was because of what you did that then got me buying all the kit that I'd got because of what you'd said. And I'm going to lift it up, my Blue Yeti that you recommended buying. So
and here's mine.
And there's yours. hello. So I bought that, and I bought all the kit. I just went straight out because I thought I would get on with doing YouTube stuff, and here I are now, sort of 2.5 years later. No, nearly coming up for 2 years later, and I've got my podcast as well. And I was able to do it all because I'd already got the kit, because I'd ordered it and bought it on the back of that webinar that you ran from New Zealand, coming up for nearly 2 years ago now. So it's a full circle, and those are the synchronicities. Those are the things that you listen out to.
So thank you for sharing, because we never know the impact that we're going to have on somebody's life.
Exactly. And the ripple effect from this podcast episode going out is going to be massive too. So how do people find you, Adam?
Well, you can come and visit me in New Zealand if you can get through the borders.
if you're allowed in.
If you want to swim over. Barring that, frankandfearless.com. I've also got my own podcast, which is the Frank and Fearless Leadership Podcast. Facebook or LinkedIn. I'm always happy to speak to people. One of the things that makes me incredibly happy is I'm just a connector. I speak to people, listen, and then I go, hey, you need to speak with this person over here. So if I kind of work on, one of my mantras is, if I don't have the answer, I'll know the person that will.
But we are very alike in so many ways, I do believe, although you've got dark curly hair and I've got pink at the moment. Anyway, thank you so much, Adam. It's been absolutely brilliant. Loved having you on, and it's great to have the opportunity, as I said, to sort of chat to you in more detail. It's always a pleasure and an honour, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. Thank you. This has been Sarah J Naylor with the fab Adam Harris, who is down in New Zealand now. Thank you for listening, and if you've enjoyed this episode, please do rate, review, follow, subscribe, and let's help spread happiness globally. Thank you so much once again.
Thanks for listening to the Harnessing Happiness podcast with Sarah J Naylor. If you took value from the content, please follow the show on your podcast app. And to find out more about Sarah's ape mindset, visit Sarah